William Golding might have decided to set Lord of the Flies against the backdrop of war due to his own experiences with violence and brutality. By setting it against the backdrop of war, he's allowing us to explore the relationship between humanity and the natural world. We're also able to see the struggle between the desire to obey rules and a desire to express violence. The book begins with a group of evacuees who crash land on a desert island. The boys quickly form groups and split off into two tribes, one led by Jack, leader of the hunters, and the other led by Ralph and his loyal friend Piggy. Piggy was responsible for most of Ralph's good ideas, but as an intellectual, overweight, shy boy, he's not a natural leader and doesn't easily take control of the group. At first, the boys enjoy their time on the island, but soon neglect to keep the signal fire. This angers Ralph, who believes the boys are becoming too accustomed to life on the island. Jack seizes this moment to challenge his authority and assert his own power. Jack has become more and more power hungry and becomes obsessed with hunting and killing the pig. The rivalry between Jack and Ralph soon descends into violence. A boy, Simon, having discovered the head of a pig on the island covered in flies, naming it Lord of the Flies, rushes to the others to let them know what he has discovered. He has discovered that within all of us there is a darkness waiting to get out, battling against good. Upon interrupting the boys mid-feast, having finally captured the pig, they see him and assume him to be the beast which they have all suspected is hiding on the island. The boys descend upon him in a barbaric frenzy, and he is ripped apart by their bare hands. Even though all the boys have taken part in this, it is not acknowledged by any of them, including Ralph and Piggy. Piggy is the first deliberate murder on the island, and he is killed by a boy who rolls a boulder down the mountain, and it crushes him. It also happens to shatter the conch. The conch has been a representation of democracy and law and order on the island. By shattering it, we see that all of that is now over, and the boys have fully descended into savagery. Following the death of Piggy, chaos is now reigning on the island, with Ralph being viciously hunted by Jack and his tribe. Ralph is barely able to make it out alive and finds himself on the beach. Out of nowhere, a naval officer appears, having come ashore after seeing their fire. All the boys appear on the beach, and upon seeing the naval officer, they all instantly burst into tears. It is at this point that we realize they are still just little boys, despite what has gone on the island. Ralph realizes that this is not only the end of their time on the island, but also the end of their childhood. Ralph is the protagonist of the play, and initially he is the leader of the boys. His best friend and most loyal friend is Piggy. Piggy is an asthmatic, short-sighted, overweight boy who is physically inferior to all the others. However, he is also independent and intellectual. He is in fact responsible for most of Ralph's good ideas, including using the conch to govern the other boys by blowing it at the start of the novel to call them all together. Ralph is responsible for maintaining order on the island, and he really cares about making sure the fire is maintained, about building shelter, and about organizing the boys. Piggy supports him in this, and he remains his only loyal friend to the end. Jack desires power over all, and he is angry when he loses the election to Ralph. Jack uses his role as leader of the hunters to wield more and more power over the boys, especially using their fear of the beast against them. This allows his actions to become more and more violent, just like that of his friend Roger. Roger is a sadistic and mean boy who enjoys using his power to hurt others. As Jack and Roger descend further and further into violence, they are able to gain more and more power on the island, eventually taking over from Ralph and Piggy as leaders. Simon represents religion, and Simon is the one who wishes to tell the other boys that it is possible to hold both good and evil within us. He represents the struggle of humanity, but he is savagely killed by the other boys instead. As well as the main characters, there are also the little ones. For example, Sam and Eric. Sam and Eric are often referred to as one body, and they initially help to maintain the fire and remain loyal to Ralph throughout the novel. At the end, however, they are forced to turn by Jack, who has become increasingly violent, and they reveal his location, which leads to Ralph being hunted by Jack and his tribe. Sam and Eric represent the little ones, who remain small throughout the novel. This gives the older boys someone to govern and bully. Something which Golding explores extensively is the loss of innocence. He presents this as something which happens naturally to the boys, as opposed to something which happens to them. They naturally begin to lose their childhood and their innocence as they indulge more and more in their barbaric nature, their innate evil, and acts of violence. The conch was supposed to represent governance and order, but this is soon shattered. Piggy's glasses were supposed to represent intellect, but these are stolen from Ralph and Piggy and taken by Jack, which represents their loss of power. When we lose both the conch and the glasses, this shows us that the boys have descended fully into savagery. Golding perhaps wanted to tell us that our innate evil cannot be destroyed by society's rules and civilization, but only masked and hidden and controlled by them. Set during the war, Ralph soon realizes that society's rule and order mean nothing when it comes to basic survival and struggling to maintain society's natural rule of order on the island. This is represented by the fire. At first, the fire is well maintained, and this symbolizes the boys' wish to be rescued. However, as the novel goes on and they descend further into their more natural, violent instincts, the fire is allowed to die out. Perhaps Golding is trying to tell us that rebuilding society after a man-made natural catastrophe is not as easy as it might seem, and wishes this to serve as a warning to society at the time. The beast is the figment of the boys' imagination, which scares them from the start of the novel. We can see that as their fear of the beast grows stronger, so does their descent into savagery. In fact, it is Simon who first realizes, before his brutal murder, that the beast actually exists within them, but he is never able to tell the boys. We can see that as the boys become more and more violent, their fear of the beast itself increases. The beast is what is used by Jack to control the boys, and therefore it can be compared to the use of religion at the time. Golding might be trying to make a further comment on the control of society and government